The escape pod was falling fast. Too fast. Danny Cole held onto his seat with both hands as the small metal box shook and screamed through the sky of a planet he had never seen before. Red lights flashed everywhere. The computer kept saying the same thing over and over. Warning. Impact in 60 seconds. Warning. Impact in 50 seconds. Danny was alone. He was the only one who had made it off the ship when the raiders attacked. The Starward, a small research vessel with a crew of 12, had been destroyed in less than 5 minutes. Danny had been near the escape pods when the first explosion happened. He ran. He jumped into the nearest pod and hit the launch button. He did not have time to think. He did not have time to check if anyone else was coming. Now he was falling toward a strange world, and he was probably going to die. The pod hit the atmosphere hard. Fire covered the small window in front of him. The heat inside grew stronger. Danny closed his eyes and thought about his home on Earth. He thought about his mother and his younger sister. He thought about the small house in Kansas where he grew up. He wondered if they would ever know what happened to him. Then the pod hit the ground. The crash was loud and violent. Danny felt his body slam against the safety straps. His head hit something hard, and for a moment everything went black. When he opened his eyes, smoke filled the pod. The emergency lights were still flashing, but the computer had gone silent. Danny touched his forehead and felt blood. His whole body hurt, but he was alive. Somehow, he was still alive. He reached for the emergency release and pulled it. The door of the pod flew open and fresh air rushed in. Danny crawled out of the wreckage and fell onto soft ground. He lay there for a long moment, breathing hard, looking up at a sky that was not blue. It was lavender, like the color of flowers in spring. He sat up slowly and looked around. The pod had crashed through a forest of strange trees. They were not green. Their leaves were silver and crystal, and they made soft ringing sounds when the wind moved them. The ground beneath him was covered in purple grass. Everything was strange and beautiful. But Danny did not have time to enjoy the view. He heard sounds coming from the forest. Footsteps, many footsteps. He tried to stand, but his legs were weak. He fell back to his knees and watched the tree line with growing fear. He had no weapon. He had no way to defend himself. If whatever was coming wanted to hurt him, he could do nothing to stop it. The first figure stepped out of the trees, and Danny forgot how to breathe. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with silver blue skin that seemed to glow in the soft light. Her eyes were large and violet like gems. Her hair was long and white, flowing down her back like water. She wore a flowing dress that shimmered with colors Danny could not name. She was not human, but she was beautiful in a way that made his heart stop. More figures appeared behind her. 10, 20, 50. All of them looked similar. All of them were female. All of them stared at Danny with expressions he could not understand. The first one moved closer. She walked slowly, carefully, like Danny was a wild animal that might run away. Her violet eyes never left his face. When she was only a few feet away, she stopped. Danny tried to speak, but no words came out. His throat was dry. His head was spinning from the crash. The woman spoke first. Her voice was soft and musical like wind chimes. She spoke in a language Danny did not know. Then she paused, tilted her head, and tried again. This time the words were different. They were rough and slow, but Danny understood them. "You are male," she said. Danny blinked. He did not know what answer she expected. He did not know why she asked, but he nodded slowly. "Yes," he said, "I am a man." The reaction was immediate. The woman's eyes grew wide. She took a step back and her hand flew to her mouth. Behind her, the other women began to whisper. Some of them fell to their knees. Others covered their faces with their hands. Danny heard sounds that might have been crying. The first woman turned to the others and spoke rapidly in her own language. Then she looked back at Danny with tears in her violet eyes. 105 years, she said, her voice shaking. 105 years without a male, we thought. We thought we would never see one again. Danny did not understand. He tried to stand again, and this time he managed to get to his feet. His legs were still weak, but he stayed upright. "I do not understand," he said. "Where am I? What happened to your males?" The woman looked at him with such pain that Danny felt it in his own chest. She stepped forward and took his hand in hers. Her skin was cool and smooth. "You are on Prime," she said, "and you may be the last hope for our dying world." Before Danny could ask another question, he heard more sounds from the forest. Louder sounds, metal and machinery. A group of women in armor emerged from the trees, carrying weapons that glowed with strange energy. They moved fast and formed a circle around Danny and the woman. One of the armored women stepped forward. She was taller than the others, with short white hair and a scar across her left cheek. Her eyes were hard and suspicious. "High Counselor Lyra," she said to the woman holding Danny's hand, "step away from the creature. We do not know if it is safe." Lyra, the woman in the flowing dress, did not move. She kept holding Danny's hand and faced the armored woman with calm strength. "He is not a creature, Commander," Lyra said. "He is a male, a living male. Do you understand what that means?" His expression did not change. "I understand that he fell from the sky in a machine we do not recognize. I understand that we have not seen a male in over a century. That does not make him safe. That makes him dangerous." Danny looked between the two women. He was hurt, confused, and very far from home. But he knew one thing for certain. Whatever was happening on this world, he had just become the most important person on the planet. And that scared him more than the crash. Lyra turned to him and squeezed his hand gently. "Do not be afraid," she said. "I will explain everything. But first, we must get you to safety. There are many who will want to meet you, and not all of them will be friendly." Danny nodded slowly. He had no choice but to trust her. He was alone on a strange world, surrounded by alien women who looked at him like he was a miracle. He did not feel like a miracle. He felt like a man who had barely survived a crash. But as Lyra led him away from the wreckage and into the crystal forest, he understood that his life would never be the same. Whatever waited for him on Prime, he would face it. That was what humans did. They survived, they adapted, they found a way. And Danny Cole was not ready to give up yet. The journey to the city took several hours. Danny walked between Lyra and a group of guards, moving through the crystal forest on a path made of smooth white stone. His head still hurt from the crash, and dried blood covered the side of his face. But he kept walking. He had no other choice. As they walked, Danny looked around at everything. The trees were unlike anything he had ever seen. Their trunks were made of something that looked like glass, and their leaves rang like tiny bells when the wind touched them. Strange birds with 4 wings flew overhead, singing songs that sounded almost like human music. But the most striking thing was the silence from the women around him. The guards walked in perfect formation, their weapons ready, their eyes always moving. Lyra stayed close to Danny, but she did not speak. The other women who had found him at the crash site followed behind at a distance, whispering among themselves. Finally, they came over a hill, and Danny saw the city. It took his breath away. The city spread across a wide valley, filled with towers that reached toward the lavender sky. The buildings were made of crystal and white stone, shining in the soft light of the 2 suns that hung above the horizon. Gardens floated in the air, connected by bridges that looked too thin to hold any weight. Water flowed through channels that ran along every street, sparkling like liquid diamonds. It was the most beautiful place Danny had ever seen, but something was wrong. The streets were nearly empty. A city that could hold millions seemed to have only thousands. The buildings, while beautiful, showed signs of age. Some of the floating gardens had died, their plants brown and wilted. The water channels were clean, but many of them flowed through abandoned sections where no one lived anymore. This city was dying. Danny could feel it. Lyra noticed him looking and spoke for the first time in hours. "Welcome to," she said. It was once the heart of our civilization. Now it is a monument to what we have lost." Danny did not know what to say. He followed Lyra through the streets, past women who stopped and stared at him with wide eyes. Some of them dropped what they were carrying. Others ran away to tell others. Word was spreading fast. The news that a mail had arrived on Prime was moving through the city like fire. They reached a large building at the center of the city, a palace made of white crystal that seemed to glow from within. Guards stood at every entrance, but they parted when they saw Lyra. Inside, the palace was cool and quiet, with high ceilings and walls covered in paintings that showed scenes from history. Danny was taken to a room with a soft bed and windows that looked out over the city. A healer came to clean his wounds and treat his injuries. She worked in silence, her hands gentle but efficient. When she was done, she bowed her head and left without saying a word. Danny sat on the edge of the bed and waited. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know if he was a guest or a prisoner, but he was too tired to worry. The crash, the walk, the shock of everything he had seen, it all pressed down on him like a heavy weight. He closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. When he woke, the two suns had set. The room was lit by soft lights that floated near the ceiling, giving off a warm glow. Lyra sat in a chair by the window, watching him. "You slept for 8 hours," she said. "Your body needed rest. How do you feel?" Danny sat up slowly. His body still hurt, but the sharp pain was gone. "Better," he said. "Thank you for helping me." Lyra nodded. She stood and walked to a small table where food and water had been placed. "You must be hungry. Please eat. And then, if you are willing, I will answer your questions." Danny was very hungry. He had not eaten since before the attack on his ship. He walked to the table and began to eat. The food was strange but good. There were fruits he did not recognize and bread that was soft and sweet. The water tasted pure and clean. While he ate, Lyra began to speak. "Prime was once a great world," she said. "We had cities across every continent, our population numbered in the billions. We had art, music, science, love. We had everything a civilization could want." She paused, and her voice grew heavy with sadness. 105 years ago, a sickness came. We do not know where it started. We do not know how it spread. We only know what it did. It killed every male on our planet, every father, every son, every brother, every husband. Within 1 year, they were all gone. Danny stopped eating. He stared at Lyra with horror in his eyes. "Every male, all of them." Lyra nodded slowly. "All of them. The plague was specific. It attacked only males. Females were immune. We watched our men die one by one, and we could do nothing to save them. Our greatest scientists worked day and night to find a cure. They failed. The plague was too strong, too precise. It was as if it had been designed to destroy us." Danny felt cold. He thought about the empty streets, the dying city, the way the women had looked at him when he first appeared. It all made sense now. "But without males," he said slowly, "how do your people survive?" Lyra's expression grew even sadder. "We do not truly. Our species requires both male and female to create new life. Without males, no children have been born on Prime in over a century. Our population has been falling ever since. We were once billions. Now we are barely millions, and every year that number grows smaller." She looked out the window at the city below. "We sent signals into space," she continued. "Calls for help. We hoped that somewhere in the galaxy there might be others who could help us, other males who might be compatible with our people, but no one ever came, until today, until you." Danny set down his food. His mind was racing. "I am human," he said. "From Earth. I do not know if my biology is compatible with yours." Lyra turned to look at him. Her violet eyes were filled with hope and fear in equal measure. "We do not know either," she admitted. "But you are the first male we have seen in 105 years. You are the first chance we have had since the plague began. Whether you can help us or not, your arrival has given my people something they had forgotten. Hope. Danny was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his situation. He was stranded on an alien world far from any human civilization. His ship was destroyed. His crew was dead. He had no way to contact Earth, no way to call for help. He was completely alone. But he was not powerless. He was here alive, and he was being offered a chance to do something that mattered, something bigger than himself. "I want to help," he said finally. "If there is anything I can do, I will do it. But I need to understand more. I need to know everything about the plague, about your people, about what happened. I cannot help if I do not understand." Lyra smiled for the first time since Danny had met her. It was a small smile, tired and fragile, but it was real. "Then tomorrow I will show you," she said. "I will take you to our scientists. They will study you with your permission, and we will discover what possibilities exist. But tonight, rest. You have had a difficult day, and there are more difficult days ahead." Danny nodded. He returned to the bed and lay down, staring up at the floating lights on the ceiling. He was a simple man, a pilot, a researcher. He had never wanted to be anyone important. He had just wanted to explore the stars and learn about the universe. Now he was possibly the only hope for a dying civilization. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on him, but somewhere deep inside he felt something else, a spark of determination, a refusal to give up. He was human. Humans did not quit. They faced problems and found solutions. That was what made them different. That was what made them survive. Whatever came next, Danny Cole would face it with everything he had. And somehow, he would find a way to help the women of Prime. Next morning, Lyra took Danny to meet the scientists. They walked through the crystal streets of passing more empty buildings and silent gardens. Word of Danny's arrival had spread through the entire city. Everywhere he looked, women watched him from windows and doorways. Some waved. Others simply stared. The Science Center was a large dome near the eastern edge of the city. Inside, hundreds of women worked at stations filled with equipment Danny did not recognize. Lights flickered across screens, and strange machines hummed with power. This was where the greatest minds of Prime worked to find answers to problems that had no solutions. Lyra led Danny to a private room where a single woman waited. She was younger than Lyra, with bright violet eyes and silver hair cut short. Her clothing was simple and practical, not like the flowing dresses Danny had seen on others. She looked at Danny with sharp curiosity, like a scientist examining a new specimen. "This is Sira," Lyra said. "She is our leading expert in genetics. She has been searching for a solution to our crisis since before she was fully grown. If anyone can determine whether you can help us, it is her." Sira stepped forward and looked Danny up and down. "Human," she said, her voice quick and precise. "From Earth, carbon-based life form, two-strand DNA structure. Fascinating. I have read about your species in the old records, but I never thought I would see one in person." Danny was not sure how to respond to being examined like a lab animal. "Nice to meet you too," he said. Sira did not seem to notice his discomfort. She was already walking around him, making notes on a device in her hand. "Your species has remarkable adaptability," she continued. "You survive in conditions that would kill most other life forms. Your immune systems are aggressive and flexible. Your DNA mutates more frequently than ours, allowing for faster evolution." She stopped in front of him and met his eyes. "The question is whether your genetics are compatible with ours. If they are, you could provide the key to saving our people. If they are not—" She did not finish the sentence. Danny understood. If his DNA was not compatible, he would be nothing more than an interesting curiosity, a guest on a dying world with no way to help. "What do you need from me?" he asked. Sira smiled slightly. It was the first time Danny had seen any warmth in her expression. "Blood samples, tissue samples, access to your genetic material for analysis. I promise no harm will come to you. We simply need to study your biology in detail." Danny nodded. He had expected this. Take whatever you need. The testing took several hours. Sira and her team were thorough and careful. They took blood from his arm. They collected samples of his hair, skin, and saliva. They placed him inside a machine that scanned his entire body, mapping every cell, every organ, every strand of DNA. Throughout the process, Danny sat quietly and watched the scientists work. They moved with speed and efficiency, but he could see the tension in their bodies. This was not just a scientific experiment for them. It was a matter of life and death for their entire species. When the testing was finally done, Sira told Danny to wait while she analyzed the results. Lyra took him to a small garden within the science center, where he sat on a bench surrounded by flowers that glowed with soft light. "You are handling this well," Lyra said, sitting beside him. "Most beings would be afraid in your situation." Danny shrugged. "I am afraid," he admitted. "But fear does not help. I learned that a long time ago. When things are bad, you focus on what you can control. Everything else is just noise." Lyra looked at him with new respect. "Your species is young compared to ours," she said. "You have only been traveling the stars for a few centuries. We have been among them for thousands of years. But there is something about humans that I did not expect." "What is that?" Danny asked. "Strength," Lyra said simply. "Not the strength of muscles or weapons, the strength of spirit. You face impossible situations and refuse to give up. That is rare in the galaxy. Most species would have surrendered in your position. You did not even hesitate." Before Danny could respond, a door opened and Sira rushed into the garden. Her face was different now. The sharp, scientific expression was gone. In its place was something Danny had not expected to see. "Joy." "High Counselor," Sira said, her voice trembling with excitement. "The results are complete. You need to see this. Now." They followed Sira back to her lab, where the screens were filled with data and charts. The other scientists had gathered around, speaking rapidly in their own language. When Danny entered, they all fell silent and turned to look at him. Sira pointed to the main screen, where two strands of DNA were displayed side by side. One was labeled, the other was labeled human. "Look at this," Sira said. "Human and genetics share 43% of their base structure. That is more compatibility than we have found with any other species in recorded history. But that is not the most important discovery." She pressed a button, and a new image appeared. It showed the plague virus that had killed all males. "We exposed samples of your genetic material to the plague," Sira said. "We wanted to see if it would attack your cells the way it attacked ours." Danny felt a chill run down his spine, and Sira turned to face him, and there were tears in her violet eyes. "Nothing," she said. "The plague cannot touch you. Your immune system destroyed it within minutes. You are completely immune." The room erupted in noise. Scientists shouted and hugged each other. Some of them fell to their knees, crying with relief. Lyra grabbed Danny's hand and squeezed it tightly. "Do you understand what this means?" Sira asked, her voice rising above the chaos. "Human genetic material can be combined with genetics to create hybrid offspring. Children who would carry immunity to the plague. Children who would have both male and female traits. Children who could save our species from extinction." Danny stared at her. The weight of her words pressed down on him like a physical force. He was not just a survivor anymore. He was not just a guest on a strange world. He was potentially the father of a new generation of. "This is a lot to take in," he said slowly. Sira nodded. "I understand. This is not something we would ask of you lightly. We are not animals. We would not force you to do anything against your will, but if you are willing to help, you could give us something we thought we had lost forever. A future." Danny looked around the room at the faces of the women who surrounded him. Scientists who had spent their entire lives searching for a solution that never came. Soldiers who had watched their world slowly die. Leaders who had carried the burden of an impossible crisis. They were all looking at him now, looking at him with hope. Danny Cole was not a hero. He was not a scientist or a warrior or a leader. He was just a pilot from Kansas who had stumbled into something far bigger than himself. But humans did not run from challenges. They faced them. "I need time to think," Danny said finally. "This is not a decision I can make in a moment, but I want you to know something." He looked at Lyra, then at Sierra, then at all the others. "I did not choose to come here," he said. "I crashed on your world by accident, but I do not believe in accidents. I believe things happen for a reason. Maybe I was meant to be here. Maybe I was meant to help you. I do not know yet, but I promise you this. I will not leave you to face this alone. Whatever happens, we will figure it out together." The room was silent. Then Lyra smiled, and it was like watching the sun rise after a long night. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving us hope." Danny nodded. He did not know what the future would bring, but for the first time since his ship was destroyed, he felt like he had a purpose. And that was worth more than all the stars in the sky. 3 weeks passed since the scientists announced their discovery. In that time, Danny Cole became the most famous person on Prime. News of the immune human male spread across the planet like wildfire. Messages came from every city, every village, every remote settlement. Everyone wanted to know about the stranger who had fallen from the sky. Some called him a savior. Others called him a miracle. A few, especially those who remembered the pain of watching their loved ones die, were not sure what to call him at all. Danny spent his days working alongside the. He was no scientist, but he had skills they needed. He knew how to repair machines. He knew how to grow food in difficult conditions. He knew how to build systems that worked efficiently. Earth humans had survived countless hardships, and Danny carried that knowledge with him. He taught them about human agriculture. Their crops had been failing for decades, and their soil was growing weaker every year. Danny showed them techniques from Earth, methods for rotating crops and enriching soil that humans had developed over thousands of years. Within weeks, the gardens around began to show new growth. He helped repair the water systems that carried fresh water through the city. Many of the channels had broken down over the years, and no one had the knowledge to fix them. Danny spent hours in the tunnels beneath the city, working with engineers who had never seen such practical problem-solving. He even helped the healers improve their medical techniques. Human medicine was different from medicine, but some ideas crossed the gap between species. Danny shared what he knew, and the healers listened with great interest. Slowly, the city began to change. There was more activity in the streets, more sounds of voices and laughter. The dying feeling that had hung over began to lift, replaced by something Danny had not expected to see. Hope. But not everyone was happy about Danny's presence. Commander, the warrior who had confronted him on the first day, remained suspicious. She watched Danny from a distance, always studying him, always waiting for him to make a mistake. One evening, Danny was walking through a quiet part of the city when appeared in front of him. She was alone, without her usual guards. Her arms were crossed over her chest, and her expression was cold. "Human," she said, "we need to talk." Danny stopped and faced her calmly. "Then talk." Stepped closer. She was taller than Danny by several inches, and her body showed the strength of a lifetime of training. But Danny did not back away. "My people want to believe in you," said. "They want to believe that you can save them, but I have seen too much to believe in miracles. I have watched this world die for 105 years. I have buried friends and family. I have seen hope destroy people when it failed." She pointed a finger at Danny's chest. "If you are false, if you are lying, if you betray us in any way, I will kill you myself. Do you understand?" Danny met her eyes without flinching. "I understand," he said, "and I do not blame you for being careful. You have every right to doubt me. I am a stranger from a strange world. You do not know if you can trust me." He paused and took a deep breath. "But let me tell you something about humans. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. We fight among ourselves. We sometimes hurt each other, but when we give our word, we keep it. When we make a promise, we do not break it. I promised Lyra and Sierra and everyone else that I would help. I intend to keep that promise. Studied him for a long moment. Her expression did not change, but something in her eyes shifted. It was not trust, not yet, but it was the beginning of respect. We will see, she said finally. Actions speak louder than words. Show me what you are through what you do, not what you say. She turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the city. Danny watched her go. He understood her anger. He understood her fear. She had spent a century protecting a world that was slowly dying around her. She had every reason to be suspicious of a miracle that seemed too good to be true. But Danny was determined to prove himself, not through words, through actions. More weeks passed. The work continued. Sierra and her team created the first hybrid embryos using Danny's genetic material combined with genetics. The embryos were healthy and strong, showing immunity to the plague that had killed so many. When the news was announced, celebrations erupted across the planet. For the first time in over a century, new life would be born on Prime. Danny stood on a balcony in the palace looking out over the city. Below him, danced in the streets. Music played from speakers on every corner. Lights floated through the air like colored stars. Lyra joined him on the balcony. She stood beside him in silence, watching her people celebrate. "You have done something remarkable," she said quietly, "something no one else could have done." Danny shook his head. "I did not do anything. Your scientists did the work. Your people never gave up hope. I just happened to crash in the right place at the right time." Lyra smiled. "You are too humble. Without you, none of this would be possible. You gave us a gift that cannot be measured. You gave us tomorrow." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the celebration below. Then a new sound reached their ears, a sound that did not belong to the celebration, a sound that came from the sky above. Danny looked up and saw a light moving through the lavender sky. It was a ship, a human ship. His heart stopped. "What is that?" Lyra asked. Danny's voice was barely a whisper. "That is a rescue ship. They must have picked up my emergency beacon. They are coming for me." Lyra turned to look at him. Her violet eyes were filled with a mixture of joy and sadness. Joy that he might be saved, sadness that he might leave. "Will you go with them?" she asked. Danny did not answer immediately. He watched the ship grow closer, its running lights blinking against the darkening sky. Inside that ship were humans, his people, a way back to the life he had known. But behind him was Prime, a world that needed him, a people who had welcomed him, a mission that was only beginning. He thought about everything that had happened since the crash. He thought about Lyra's kindness and Sierra's dedication and reluctant respect. He thought about the empty streets that were now filling with life. He thought about the children who would soon be born, children who would carry his genes and grow up in a world saved from extinction. He thought about what it meant to be human. Humans did not run from responsibility. Humans did not abandon those who needed them. Humans stayed and fought, even when the fight seemed impossible. Danny turned to Lyra. His decision was made. "I need to meet with them," he said. "I need to tell them what happened, but I am not leaving, not yet. There is still work to be done here. There is still a future to build." Lyra's eyes widened. "You would stay, even though you could go home." Danny smiled. It was the first real smile he had felt since his ship was destroyed. "Prime is my home now," he said. "At least for as long as you need me. I did not choose to come here, but I choose to stay." Lyra reached out and took his hand. Her cool fingers wrapped around his warm ones, and in that moment, the distance between their two species felt very small. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, Danny Cole." Below them, the celebration continued. Above them, the rescue ship began its descent. And between them, a bond was forming that would change the future of two worlds forever. Danny did not know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a very long time, he was excited to find out. The rescue ship landed in the central plaza of just as the celebration was reaching its peak. They fell silent as the metal vessel touched down, their joy replaced by uncertainty. They had never seen a human ship before. They did not know if these new visitors were friends or enemies. Danny walked to the plaza with Lyra at his side and following close behind. The commander's hand rested on her weapon, ready for anything. The ship's door opened, and 3 humans stepped out. They wore the gray uniforms of the Earth Fleet, and they carried themselves with the confidence of trained soldiers. Their leader was a woman with dark skin and sharp eyes who scanned the crowd before focusing on Danny. "Captain Danny Cole," she called out. Danny stepped forward. "That is me." The woman's expression softened slightly. "I am Commander Brooks of the Earth vessel Valiant. We received your emergency beacon 3 weeks ago. We came as fast as we could." She looked around at the crowd, of her eyes wide with surprise. "What exactly have you found here, Captain?" Danny took a deep breath. "Commander Brooks, I have a lot to tell you, but first I need you to understand something. These people are not our enemies. They saved my life, and I may have saved theirs." Over the next hour, Danny explained everything. The crash, the plague, the dying civilization, the genetic discovery, the hybrid children who would soon be born. Commander Brooks listened without interruption, her expression growing more serious with every word. When Danny finished, Brooks was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke slowly. "You are telling me that you, a single human pilot, may have saved an entire alien species from extinction?" Danny shrugged. "I would not put it exactly like that. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. They did most of the work themselves." Brooks shook her head in disbelief. "Earth Command is going to have a lot of questions about this. This is first contact on a level we have never seen before. Trade agreements, cultural exchange, genetic research. The implications are enormous." Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was calm but strong. "Commander Brooks, my people have lived in isolation for over a century. We watched our world die and thought we were alone in the universe. But your pilot showed us something different. He showed us that there is kindness among the stars. He showed us that strangers can become family." She looked at Danny with warmth in her violet eyes. "We do not wish to be alone anymore. We would like to build a relationship with your people, not as subjects or servants but as equals, partners, friends." Brooks considered this for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. "I cannot speak for all of Earth. That decision belongs to people far above my rank, but I can tell you this. What I have seen here today gives me hope, and hope is something the galaxy needs more of." She turned to Danny. "Captain Cole, you have the choice to return with us to Earth. Your family has been of the attack on your ship. They think you are dead. We can take you home." Danny felt his heart ache at the thought of his mother and sister. He missed them terribly. He wanted to see them, to hold them, to tell them he was alive. But he also looked at Lyra, Sierra, and Even. He looked at the who had gathered to watch this moment. He looked at the city that was coming back to life around him. "I want to send a message to my family," he said. "I want them to know I am alive and safe, but I cannot leave. Not yet. There is still too much to do here. These people need me and I will not abandon them." Brooks raised an eyebrow. "You are choosing to stay on an alien world instead of returning to Earth." Danny smiled. "I am choosing to stay where I am needed most. That is what humans do. We help, we build. We do not walk away when the job is not finished." Brooks stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly, a smile spread across her face. "Captain Cole, you may be the strangest human I have ever met, but you might also be the best of us." She extended her hand. "We will take your message to your family, and we will return with diplomats and supplies. Prime is about to become very important to Earth, and I have a feeling you are going to be right at the center of it." Danny shook her hand firmly. I look forward to it. The Valiant stayed on Prime for 3 days. During that time, Brooks and her crew met with Lyra and the Council. They discussed the future, the possibilities, the challenges ahead. It was only the beginning of a long conversation, but it was a good beginning. When the ship finally departed, Danny stood on the palace balcony and watched it rise into the lavender sky. Part of him wanted to be on board, flying back to Earth, returning to the life he had known. But a larger part of him knew he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Appeared beside him. She did not say anything at first. She just stood there, watching the ship disappear into the clouds. "I was wrong about you," she said finally. Danny looked at her. "What do you mean?" His expression was still serious, but there was something different in her eyes, something that might have been respect. "When you first arrived, I thought you were dangerous. I thought you were a threat. I have spent 105 years protecting my people from danger. I did not know how to react to someone who wanted to help." She turned to face him directly. "But I was wrong. You are not dangerous. You are exactly what you said you were, a human who keeps his promises, a man who stays when others would run." She paused. "I am sorry for doubting you." Danny smiled. "You had every right to doubt me. You were protecting your people. That is what a good leader does." Nodded slowly. Then, to Danny's surprise, she extended her hand in the human gesture of friendship. Danny took it and shook it firmly. "Welcome to Prime," Danny Cole said. "You are one of us now." 10 years passed. Danny stood in the grand hall of the palace, looking at a statue that had just been unveiled. It was made of white crystal, carved in the shape of a human man with his hand extended in friendship. The face was his own, though the sculptor had made him look more noble than he felt. Around him, children ran and laughed. They were the first generation born since the plague. Some looked fully with silver-blue skin and violet eyes. Others showed hints of human heritage, with skin that was slightly warmer in tone, eyes that were a little more round. They were hybrids, the future of two worlds combined. Lyra stood beside him, older now but still strong. Sira was there too, surrounded by young scientists she had trained. Even was present, though she still looked uncomfortable at formal events. And beside Danny stood his wife, a woman named Myra, and their twin daughters, who had his smile in their mother's eyes. The inscription on the statue was simple. It read, "He came from the stars and gave us tomorrow." Danny felt tears in his eyes as he read those words. He had never wanted to be a hero. He had never wanted fame or statues or celebrations. He had just wanted to help. But sometimes, helping was the most heroic thing anyone could do. The crowd cheered as Danny stepped forward to speak. He looked out at the faces before him, humans and standing together, scientists and warriors, leaders and workers, children who would grow up in a world that had been saved from extinction. "I am not good at speeches," Danny said, and the crowd laughed. "But I want to say one thing. 10 years ago, I crashed on this world by accident. I was scared and alone and did not know if I would survive. But you welcomed me. You trusted me. You gave me a second family." He looked at Myra and his daughters. He looked at Lyra and Sira, and he looked at all the friends he had made over the years. "I did not save Prime. We saved it together. Humans and working side by side, building something neither of us could have built alone. That is what the galaxy needs. Not conquerors or rulers, partners, friends, family." He raised his hand toward the statue behind him. "This statue is not just for me. It is for everyone who refused to give up, everyone who chose hope over despair, everyone who believed that tomorrow could be better than today." His voice grew stronger. "I am proud to be human, and I am proud of what we have built together, and I cannot wait to see what we will build next." The crowd erupted in cheers. Fireworks exploded overhead, painting the lavender sky with human and colors combined. Danny Cole smiled and held his family close. He had come from the stars as a survivor. He would stay among them as a builder of worlds. And that was the greatest legacy any human could hope to leave behind.